Now, we know red tide is still very present in our waters, but today we got a deeper look inside the algae wreaking havoc on our beaches.
Every Monday, the coastline is tested by Mote Marine and Florida Department of Health to determine the red tide concentration. ABC 7's Taylor Torregano is live at Mote Marine with what they're looking for in these samples and if the issue is getting any better. Taylor?
Good evening, Jacqueline and Scott. In addition to those weekly samples of the coastline, Mote Marine scientists also hop in a boat and leave from this dock every weekday to gather additional samples of red tide for their own studies. Today, before they took off, I asked them what they're looking for and how.
Our coast is looking pretty red right now, and it's one of the longer lasting blooms of red tide we've had.
In fact, Mote says it's one of, if not the longest lasting bloom since the hard bloom in 2005 to 2006.
It's a pretty unusual occurrence, not the first time, but pretty unusual, and it is definitely dragging out here.
Scientists are doing all they can to find ways to track and mitigate the effects of Karenia brevis, or red tide.
That's what this all ties to, is gathering that information that can help us with tracking and detection, but also with prediction and forecasting.
As he walked to board the boat, scientist Vince Loveco explained that they monitor Karenia brevis through remote sensing. It absorbs and reflects light wavelengths like our eyes do when we see color.
The kind of wavelengths that bounce back out of the water and that we can pick up with these remote sensing sensors, that can tell us what's in the water. Whether it's things that are backscattering in a way that lets us know it's non-living particles, or in a way that lets us know that it's living particles.
The living particles are red tide. From this boat ramp yesterday, scientists gathered 32,000 cell counts of red tide per milliliter of water. According to this chart, that's 32 times the amount that's already considered a high level.
That's because when it gets pushed into the bay and it gets pushed into those little sub-embayments, and it just kind of sits there, and the currents just kind of push it and aggregate it.
Which is why if you've driven down John Ringling Boulevard in Longboat Key this week, you've likely been accompanied with the smell of these. Of red tide came from Casperson Beach and North Lido Beach. Both had cell counts 6 times the amount that's already considered high levels of red tide. I'm reporting live from the boat ramp at Mote Marine Laboratory. Taylor Torregano, ABC 7, your Suncoast News.